Hey team, welcome in. Hermitarius here. Happy March 1st, 2025. I'm wanting to do a transit check-in today because I feel like today is a good chance to get a glimpse or a handle on what essentially the next 1 to 3 months kind of looks like. Um, a lot of what we're moving into is either starting stuff right now or we're setting into not a lot of change, or not a lot of fast change, kind of that deeper, more internal change. And we don't have bigger, kind of global across the chart shifts until June, July. And for various reasons, which I'm going to go over, I feel like today is a good day, like astrologically speaking, to kind of check in. So let's get into it. I'll return to these pages here. Here's a chart snapshot of when I was making this PowerPoint earlier today. So it's Saturn's day, a Saturday, and then let's look at what's going on. So Mercury conjunct the North Node today, whether you use the true node or the mean node, he's moving fast enough that he's hitting both those mathematical points today. And the nodes represent eclipses. So we're about to move into our eclipse window. We're already in eclipse season. Why do I say that? Because the next lunation, the next new or full moon is going to be an eclipse. So we're already in eclipse season. And the nodes represent eclipses. If there's a new or a full moon within 18 degrees of this symbol here, doesn't matter, house and sign cusps don't matter, it means there will be an eclipse. We might not see it from where we are, but eclipse will happen. North node and south node don't affect if it's a new moon or a full moon or a solar or a lunar eclipse. They just mean that proximity to the nodes, proximity of the sun and or the moon during a new or a full moon to the nodes means there will be an eclipse. So Mercury being on having a conjunction with talking to meeting with the North Node today, as we're moving into eclipse season, especially being the ruler of one of the upcoming eclipses, the full moon Virgo eclipse, maybe we can get some insight about those upcoming eclipses. Mercury, who's about like the mind and understanding and communicating information, talking to or conjuncting the actual mathematical point up on the ecliptic that represents eclipses, and proximity to which would represent or result in an eclipse should the sun and moon be here. Maybe we're going to get, maybe this is a good day to get some of that insight. The other thing that Mercury is doing is Mercury enters his pre-shadow period today. We're about to go into a Mercury eclipse from about here in Pisces, 26 degrees Pisces, to about 9 degrees Aries. Then he'll come back, station direct at 26 Pisces, and then move forward again, and then be in new ground. So this whole retrograde for Mercury, we could say that it begins now. Whatever we're dealing with mercurially in the next few weeks, expect it to just keep on being of the same flavor or the same subject matter. So that's what's going on with Mercury. That's why I would say today is a good day to check in both about the upcoming Mercury retrograde, but the upcoming eclipse season as well. But that's not all that's going on. Also, Moon is going to be passing by the second eclipse point, at like 8 or 9 Aries. So in a month's time, we have our second eclipse. After the Virgo full moon will be a Aries new moon. And Moon is passing that point right now. So again, a planet about communication and information. This is more somatic, internal knowing. But it's still activating that point. As well as Venus is turning retrograde today. So if we're talking about the overall springtime retrograde eclipse stuff that's all happening right here, it's just a pile up this spring. Today is maybe a good day to take stock because what we're about to go through or what we're going through right now, that's what's on the menu for a little while. So let's carry on because I wrote all this out. So Mercury is conjunct the North Node, which is going to hopefully give us some possible insight to the coming eclipse season. The eclipses are March 13th or 14th. This is Mountain Time, so -7 from UTC. At 23:58 Virgo, we're having a full moon or a lunar eclipse, which itself is ruled by Mercury, so that's information. And then 2 weeks later, on March 29th, we're having an Aries new moon or a solar eclipse at about 8:53 Aries. So right here from March 14 to March 29, this is the eclipse window, but the entirety of like the last lunation before eclipses and the first lunation after eclipses, this is eclipse season. So we're in eclipse season until April 12th, when we have our first non-eclipse lunation, which is going to be a Libra full moon at 23:19 Libra. Mercury is also entering his pre-shadow today. So from now until April 26th, when he'll be in new ground finally, it's all kind of like one scene maybe. So beginning today, what comes up will likely come up again, or whatever happens for you during Mercury retrogrades. Maybe like old friends or old exes come into your life, old classmates, old business partners, old customers, that kind of thing. If that kind of thing happens for you, or if it's car trouble, or if it's like email trouble or whatever, um, kind of expect that that's more possible to be coming up at this point. None of this may affect you if you don't have these planets at sensitive points, or if you're not having any of these planets as like a Time Lord this year. So don't take everything as like doom. That's not the message I'm trying to send here. Anyway, Mercury's entering his pre-shadow today, so basically the whole retrograde vibe is lasting at least until April 26th, when he'll enter new zodiac degrees. But the actual retrograde itself, when he's moving in backwards motion, happens from retrograde station to direct station, March 15th to April 7th. And then if we actually want to look at like when is a fresh start, when is Mercury in a brand new sign, not dealing with any of the energy that's coming up right now, May 10, Mercury enters Taurus. Meanwhile, at the same time today, Venus is stationing retrograde. So we're getting ready to start our 40 days of retracing these old degrees that she's just passed through in her pre-shadow, which is also a descent and then a re-emergence out of the sun. So we entered pre-shadow January 28th. We're stationing retrograde today. We're going to station direct April 13th. We leave our shadow period and get into new degrees past 1050 Aries on May 16th. And Venus truly gets like a change and a shift and something new to work with on June 5th. We enter Taurus. Venus is also stationing very close to the eclipse point. The eclipse is happening at 8:53 Aries. Mercury is going to station at 9:35 Aries, and Venus is stationing at 10:50 Aries. So this is also piling up as one information point, and we have both Venus and the moon talking to this point today, talking to like these points today, and so it's just an informative day. Um, Mars, who rules the Aries eclipse, and is also retrograde, is picking up speed. If you open up the transit calendar, the current planets calendar, every day you're going to see that Mars's minutes here are starting to get bigger differences between them every time you look, as he's beginning to build just a little bit of speed. It's not much, but it's something. And so Mars is direct, recently turned direct on February 23rd from 17 degrees Cancer. Mars will exit his post-shadow period on May 2nd, and we finally get like an actual new shift, new sign, new element, new energy on June 17th when Mars enters Virgo. Um, I don't know how do I get the bar to go away? Meanwhile, Jupiter, who is ruling all of this stuff from Pisces, or all this stuff that's happening in Pisces, as Mercury and Venus started their retrograde paths in Pisces, and they're going to both station direct in Pisces. So Jupiter, the ruler of that, he himself is experiencing changes. On April 30th, he leaves his post-shadow period and he's in new degrees in the zodiac that he hasn't retrograde over before. And then June 19th enters Cancer. So the other reason why we're looking for shifts is because pretty much everybody planetarily, temperamentally, they're not doing great. They're kind of doing rough. So Mars is in fall in Cancer. Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini. Venus is in detriment in Aries. And Mercury is in fall and or detriment in Pisces. So we're also interested in looking at shifts because once Venus leaves Aries, she moves into her own sign of Taurus. So that's a really positive shift. Jupiter will move from Gemini into his exaltation sign, so one of his favorite signs of Cancer. Mars will move from a fall sign where he like really does not operate in the way that like he wants to or you would expect him to, back into a fire sign where he has line of sight to both of his other signs. He's got a trine to all these Aries placements, so that'll be nice. And then there is a square to his other rulership of Scorpio, which if anybody is like excited to work with a square, it's going to be Mars. And then we also want to look at shifts because eclipses don't have to mean doom and gloom for like regular everyday people, which I'm assuming is who we are listening to this. It's eclipses are more like accelerated times, or times of great importance, like where you really want to stay loose and flexible. But it's still a lot going on for the luminaries. So the sun and moon, we also are looking for the next shift. And if we look at everybody who's going through something in the next little while and when they're going to shift, it's all our personal planets. Sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all the personal planets that deal with like you and how you interact with the world. And then Jupiter is making a very lovely shift that I hope we're all excited for, and I hope is celebratory. Like, I hope it's good for everybody. I hope it's wonderful for us all. That shift is going to happen, which is like how we interact with, like, I guess the better parts of society, as well as Neptune is having a shift and Saturn is having a shift. So there's just a lots going on. And so we can compile all of these dates. We can look at all the times that anybody is contacting the North Node, just because it's pretty busy within this time frame. And so each of these contacts might have something to say about the evolution of our eclipse season, which is the last Aries eclipse. But maybe this doesn't have any information, but maybe it does, so I put it here. Here's Mercury's pre-shadow, station retrograde, station direct, leave post shadow, enter new degrees, and when do we enter the next sign. Similar for Venus, similar for Mars, and then we have the eclipses happening as well. So a full moon eclipse is a lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse is a new moon eclipse, and then eclipse season ends when we finally move into the Libra full moon in April. So I decided to combine all of this into like a full-on list that has almost everything in it, and there's just a lot of dates, so I forgot a lot, but that's fine. So I do have a video where I took a video of when I made this, so I'm going to put that at the end. But this is just a visual representation of, we're in eclipse season, and then it's the eclipse window, and then we come out of eclipse season, but then when are we looking for shifts? Sure, we have a shift when Sun moves into Taurus, but when Sun is in Taurus, Venus is still dealing with her retrograde shenanigans. And so the Sun is then like ruled by Venus. And so is it really a shift because the ruler hasn't shifted? And so we're looking for a greater shift maybe when Sun enters Gemini. And then it's going to be a pretty nice shift when we enter Cancer because we're going to be co-present with Jupiter. Similar, I'm just trying to get rid of this bar below us. Similarly, Mercury, we're in the pre-shadow retrograde, and then we're in the retrograde, we're going to have the Cazimi, and then we'll be in the post-shadow retrograde. Then we'll technically be free of the retrograde degrees, but when do we shift signs? It's May 10th, and then it's like we're free and clear into actually new energy, new experiences. Venus, we just started the retrograde today. This retrograde will go through the Cazimi, and then we'll be in the post retrograde where she's moving direct again, but she's not in new ground. So maybe it's new insights or like a new appreciation, but it's not new material. And then we're into new degrees, new zodiacal degree, We go into the rest of Aries, but we're actually going to get like a more obvious shift once we move into Taurus, which happens June 5th. Mars is in the post shadow, so this isn't new ground. So it might still feel frustrating, even though we're picking up speed and momentum and we're moving forward again. It's not really new. We do have a shift when we move into Leo April 17th, and then we experience the final and third Pluto opposition. Then we hit new ground at 6 degrees, 7 degrees Leo. And then we get a new shift when we enter Virgo, June 17th. Meanwhile, Jupiter, who has just been holding on, holding strong, almost completely depleted in Gemini, um, especially depending how Mercury is doing. So, like, this might be an especially exhaustive time as Jupiter is trying to supply Mercury. Mercury is trying to supply Jupiter. Depending when Mercury's in Aries, Mars will be supplying. Mars himself is still going pretty slow and has to still go through these shifts. So this might be like a really tiring time, but just know that we are moving forward. It is like only forward from here. And then we get into new ground, but we don't have that fresh energy until June 20th. And then hopefully it is quite fresh. It is quite rejuvenating and nutritive. So I feel like today is a good day to do some checking in and to kind of assess and evaluate what's come up, how are your interactions going, what new ideas came forth, what kind of conversations did you have, and we're kind of looking at what's come up today and we're agreeing to like learn and to change and to be changed with it. So why do I say all that? Well, I say learn because Venus and Mercury specifically are involved as well. Like the more we look, it's all of the personal planets, it's all of the inner planets and Mars and Jupiter. And then Saturn's involved in all these aspects, like it's just everybody's popping off right now. So this is a really informative time for us. Why do I say to change? Because we are having, it's all retrograde based. Um, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change your stance. It's okay to change your opinion. And then I have to be changed because it's also eclipse season. So this isn't a time to fixate on what you see that you need to change. It's just agreeing to be open to the change because it might come on you quicker or faster or in a different way than you would have planned. So I feel like today or this week or this time period is a good time, a good opportunity to get a glimpse on the topics and the themes that are going to be involved in this, either through the next month to the next 3 months. And then we'll be in like new energy, a bigger shift once June and July are around. So maybe this week is going pretty positively for you. Maybe you feel like you've already been through the ringer and now you're coming out of it, processing, learning. You've developed some agency, or you're allowing new experiences to come in. You're like excitedly waiting for that shift. So maybe this time is more of allowing and accepting and receiving. So this window of time until June or July may be easier or more pleasant for people born with a natal Venus retrograde, a natal Mercury retrograde, or maybe for eclipse babies. Maybe not. Always trust your own lived experience. Do not listen to me. If I'm saying it should be easy and it's really hard, it's really hard. I'm not saying it should be anything. Um, so if it is kind of good for you, like if today was an all right day, or if you had good insights, or if you spent time on projects you liked, how can you allow more of that in? How can you make some space within your mental and your emotional habits, Mercury and Venus retrograde, to let more of that come through, to let more of that happen? What actions or habits led to this being possible today? And how do we lean more fully into that? Do we have to make adjustments in whatever houses Mercury and Venus happen to be in whatever houses the eclipses are about to activate, to open up and allow more of all of that in? So saying yes to what is trying to come forward may require for you to say no to what is in the way. This is supported, first of all, by Venus, who needs to say no to say yes. She can't say yes to everything because then she doesn't have like a curated look. It's not harmonious, it's disharmonious, unless you're into maximalism, which is its own vibe. But for the most part, you have to be specific. You have to say no to a whole bunch so that you can say yes with your whole self. And then this is also supported because Mars is in contact with this Pisces Aries shenanigans that are happening, first by trine from Cancer, and then by trine Cancer to Pisces, and square Cancer to Aries, and then by trine Leo to Aries. So, and then everybody trines together because he'll be in Virgo when everyone else is in Taurus. So that's an earth trine. So it's very supportive. So he also says no so that he can say hell yes to whatever it is. He just has to say no because it isn't exciting enough. So if it doesn't spark his passion, he's going to say no to it. So he's there to support Venus and Mercury to do some change, to maybe feel like you got to be a little more selfish. Retrogrades, the planets are closer to Earth, or the closest they get to Earth. And so it can really be like something you personally have to deal with when maybe Mercury and Venus tend to be more about like interacting and paying attention to other people and how do we get along with them. What do we have to do to like keep the conversation going or to keep the relationship harmonious? This may be a time when you kind of turn a little bit inward and you go, okay, but what do I need? Because it's okay to change your mind and it's okay to act differently once you've paid attention to and learned how you really feel. It's less okay. I mean, it's okay if it happens because it's still a learning experience and we all go through it. But like, it's less ideal, I guess, to get information about how something makes you feel and then continue to ignore it. So hopefully, this is a time if you are walking into trying to have more ease or more joy or trying to agree to participate more in like what life has to offer. Hopefully, this is a time where not only you open those doors and you allow it in, but you like agree to participate in whatever changes you undergo to become that person. Maybe it's as simple as like if you're walking around and you're looking at the trees and the birds more, you're going to end up standing differently, and so you have to let yourself do that. You have to let yourself stand up more, or whatever it is. Like it doesn't have to be like life altering, life shattering. It can be just a little habit. Um, so because this is just like a season of change, change is natural and exciting if you let it be, right? Like what's that quote? Fear is excitement holding its breath. So let go and go with the flow. You got to stay open. So all this information we may be getting, don't fixate on knowing exactly what it is that's going to change and how you're going to change it. Stay open so that you can see what new opportunities are coming in, specifically through the eclipses. And maybe something will show up that is beyond what you could have planned or beyond what you could have been excited about. And just be really cognizant of what do you want to say no to? What do you wish you could say no to? If you're having a shower argument where you're telling someone off, can you bring a tidbit of that into your real life? Can you set a new personal boundary? Can you change a habit of yours to allow more of what Venus and Mercury and your whole chart wants for you, which is like a life well lived? Maybe things are not going so great for you this week. Maybe this is a real shit time, and to hear me say, okay, it's just going to be like this for the next 3 months, it makes you feel like, well, what's even the point? I can't make it for these next 3 months. I'm not going to survive. Um, if it's just more of this, like I'm not going to make it. And so I kind of want to talk about agency and enduring and learning. So not only can this be a heightened time for people who may be experiencing kind of this down in the dumps, this is a drag, when is this going to end kind of vibe, so this may be more likely for people who have direct Venus or direct Mercury in their charts, or who have like Libra Taurus risings, Virgo Gemini risings, or like chart rulers or luminaries, or if your time lords are these planets this year, it may be a bit of a drag. There's also a lot of Saturn contacts between the North Node and Venus, and that's not very common. Venus usually does a one-time direct pass with Saturn, and then that's it. But this time there's three within her retrograde. Half of them, or most of them, are happening in Pisces, the sign of her exaltation. So on the one hand, she's really resourced, but on the other hand, she has to host Saturn. And so that might be a bit of a drag as well. And then really like your mileage may vary. So like depending eclipse babies, like it may be good, it may be bad. I don't know. It might be all of it. So I kind of want to talk about agency because I am not a big free will person. I'm not going to look at you and say, well, you're going through this hard time because of the choices you made. And I'm not going to say, well, if you don't learn something from this time, it's just going to keep happening. Because I don't think that you have a whole lot of control over your choices. I think a lot of it comes from your circuitry and your upbringing and your genetics and the conditions you find yourself in, including like your body and the way that you are. But I do think we have agency. And I think the agency starts with and comes from the acknowledgement that this is bullshit and I don't want to experience it anymore. I can experience good things. I deserve to experience good things. And I may even be worth the effort or the participation it takes to get out of the bullshit and to live a good life. Maybe that's not happening right now. Maybe this is just a very informative time where you can do a lot of learning. You can get a lot of information about what it does not work, what you do not want, what you will not be going through again. Um, that like this is best case scenario that I'm spinning on because I don't just want to paint a picture of all change is good, just flow with it. You may have to endure. And when you can't do anything, what do? You do less. Okay? Like if Saturn is pulling up for you right now, a big narrative for Saturn is discipline and nose to the grindstone and delayed gratification. I don't really have a disciplined Saturn. I have a neglect Saturn. So you put down what is not an emergency right now. You focus on surviving. You don't have to get through these transits. You don't have to get through these next 3 months well. You just have to get through them. Nobody cares if you don't brush your teeth. I mean, you will in the future, but whatever. Like, if the difference is not getting to a future or not brushing your teeth, fucking, just do what you gotta do. Nobody cares if you gain a bunch of weight. Nobody cares if you lose a bunch of weight. Obviously, we care and we don't want you to make yourself ill. But again, if the difference is doing everything and not making it to the end of this path, or just dropping everything off the side of the path or like off this bridge or whatever, so that you at the end can get through this, then that's what we want, okay? So sometimes you can't say no, but you have to endure. So how can you moderate or mitigate? Can you ask for less? Can you contact your boss and say, listen, I'm giving my level best, but I just cannot show up. Please let me do XYZ. And I promise, like, that is what is my capability. Can you wait until someone contacts you without having to contact them first? Can you take away all the things that usually you judge yourself against, like your eating habits and your weight habits and your activity habits? Until these June shifts, June, everybody is tired. And you, as the soft animal body on this planet, who is like open to and like almost at the mercy of environmental factors, including weather, including seasonality, including air pressure, um, different, like depending on your sensitivity. Everybody is tired in the sky. Why wouldn't you be tired? So when the going gets tough, what stabilizes you? Because we do have support. Everybody is leaning against the wall, but they're leaning against each other. Everybody's talking to each other, and that's great. Nobody can really help each other, but at least we're here able to witness and see and support and say, you know what, when we do shift, like that's when we're going to be able to pay ourselves back. So, what regulates you in the meantime? What helps you survive? And don't shame yourself about it, right? Maybe instead of this retrograde being a positive time where you're slowly letting in the good things, maybe this is a time where you really face and you stop shaming what you maybe think, I don't know, that you judge for helping you. Like, I try to have a nap every day, have a bath every day. If you have a colonial, capitalistic, like white supremacist, maximize your gains, extract every minute out of every day that you can mindset about rest or about slowing down or about doing less, please check out the Nap Bishop, Trisha Hersey's work. Please try to rest. Please try to daydream. Please try to chisel in a little bit of space within your heart, within your mind, within your life, within your space, that the the future doesn't have to look like the past or the present. And if this is a shit time, it's information about what you don't want to experience again and what your life is not supposed to be like, right? So can you just take anything that is not yours to deal with and kind of drop it for now? because again, we don't care how well, how shining, how many accolades you get getting off this path. This is a hard ass time. Please just stay with us until we get off the path. Okay? Okay. Is that everything I have? I think so. So let's go back to the beginning. What is going on? I want to create this transit map because I think that today is a good day for getting a handle on what the next 3 months might look like. In March, we're going through eclipses. This is activated today by Mercury being on the North Node and the Moon being on the Aries eclipse point, and Venus and Mercury stationing retrograde, which is going to tell us about the retrogrades. And then we're going to have Cazimis for both of these guys. And Neptune is entering Aries for the first time. So this is one big shift in March. Well, this is like 4 big shifts in March. And then in April, we get out of eclipse season, but this lunation is still ruled by someone who's having a retrograde. These retrograding planets are going to station direct. Mars is going to have a shift into Leo, but he doesn't leave retrograde situation yet. Jupiter, at the very end of April, Jupiter finishes the post shadow, and Venus continues to have her Saturn North Node conjunctions, while Mars has his final Pluto opposition. In May, Mercury, Venus, and Mars finally leave all the post shadow. So now all these 3 planets are in completely new ground. We're not anywhere near eclipses. So all of our personal planets are starting to get maybe a little more agency, a little more freedom. They're feeling a little fresher. And Mercury really has a fresh start in a brand new sign in Taurus, as does Saturn, for the first time moving into the sign of his fall, Aries. So what this means is that the slow burn and the drag of Saturn might be quickened. Saturn doesn't like that, but maybe we do. And then finally in June, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, these 2 planets, which really talk about our passion, our drive, our ability to want something and then do something about it, and the greater collective's ability to like respond favorably to that, all of this shifts. So maybe you are just going to experience some eclipse stuff, and all of this will be over by April 13th for you. Maybe only one of your planets is really talking to you right now, and maybe it's Mercury, and then by May 10, Mercury's in Taurus, he's having a good time. Maybe this is a pileup that you're going to deal with, and so kind of expect whatever's on your plate right now, whatever's on your mind. It's not going to not change. It's not going to remain static. It absolutely is going through lots of change. We are chewing this cud, but we're chewing this cud until June, essentially. Okay? So yeah, I think today is a good day because Mercury is contacting the North Node, which signifies eclipses, and the Moon is also passing the Aries new moon eclipse point. So this may give us insight because Mercury and the Moon are both about communication, and they're both personal planets about the body and about the mind over the next 2 lunations, which are eclipses. So what conversations or new thoughts or new projects came up today, it might be recurring. Is there information about the balance of your body with the moon that is becoming apparent? Do we need to invite in some shifts, which, with the eclipses, if they can be accelerated, what can we call in to be like, I'm willing to change quickly, like if you make it good. So like it might be wild, but like let's make it beneficial. Like try and call in the best case scenario if you can. Venus is stationing retrograde and Mercury has entered the pre-retrograde shadow. So this is going to tell us about the retrogrades that are coming up. So eclipses are going until April 13th. Retrogrades basically are going until June. Mercury is until May 10th and Venus until June 5th when these planets leave Aries, the sign that they're having a retrograde in, and get into Taurus. So what we're dealing with today, kind of expect to be dealing with for a while, if that's how retrogrades work for you. If not, ignore. And then Mars and Jupiter, who are both recently direct, are both beginning to pick up speed, which is good, but they're both still in signs they don't do well in, that they don't prefer to be in. And so it's still kind of a drag. Yes, we have optimism. Yes, we're building speed. Yes, we know we're going to be free soon, but it's not happening yet. And then another reason why today is an interesting day is that Sun is at, Oh, where's my map? Sun is at 11:33. Ooh, angel number. When I took the screenshot and was first making these slides, and Jupiter is at 12:20. So we're in a square where we are applying to some kind of conversation here. We're talking to each other. So again, just, some solar insight on kind of the light at the end of the tunnel when Jupiter moves into Cancer. This is kind of the final, I don't know, curtain being opened into the new shift, the new summertime light, because we're going to be well past eclipse season. All of the retrograde planets will be in new ground. So Jupiter moving into Cancer, like, to me, really does signify you don't have to hold your breath anymore. We're going to be a new energy, and hopefully it's bomb, as in good. And so, yeah, this feels like a good time to take stock on what is going on and prepare to commit to getting through what is coming and looking forward to moving forward in June. That doesn't mean we're staying still and we're ignoring things. Like, if you have the energy right now to be making changes, this is a great time. If you don't have the energy right now to do anything but hold on, then this is a great time to develop those skills. So in June, when all the final shifts out of this specific energy window may be more readily or apparently felt. So there is the check-in for today, March 1st. This is what I think it's a good day to, yeah, record. If you could make a journal entry, whatever you like, because over the next 3 months, yeah, I'd be interested to know how true any of this rings for any of us. Okay, so I'm just going to open up, I'm going to put the links for everything that I used. So here is a Google Sheets that has all the retrograde, pre-retrograde direct, and post-shadow dates in it that you can use however you like. There's also the eclipses, so if you want to look at these eclipses are going between mutable and cardinal this season, so we can look at 2025 and we've got Aries, Virgo. Here we go. Yeah. And then this is one of the sites that I use to grab the glyphs. This is another one that I use. And then of course AstroSeek. So if you're looking for the dates that planets go back and forth over the house cusps or the sign cusps, then it is the astro calendar. If you go to the retrograde calendar or the ingress tool, it won't show you, like, for example, it won't show you when Mars goes back into Leo. So yeah, I'm going to link all these in the description box, and we can see this be made in real time. So eclipse season we are in, eclipse window is the tighter time, and then right now we're in Mercury's pre-shadow phase. There's the retrograde phase, and then we'll have a post-shadow phase. And then when does Mercury actually get like fresh new energy? When he moves into Taurus. So if we're looking at the bigger shift, when does the sun shift? Well, when the sun moves into Taurus. But is it a big shift? Because we're still ruled by Venus, who's still dealing with her stuff. So the bigger shift is going to be when sun moves into Cancer, because we're also going to have a co-presence with Jupiter, which is going to be lovely. Venus, we just started her retrograde, so we've got a while until she's free. Mars, we're in the post shadow, and then he is going to move into Virgo and be in fresh territory in June. And here I'm realizing I don't have the information I need on that page, so we don't need to see all that. This is where I'm realizing that it's the annual astro calendar that's going to have the information I need. And here it is, Mars entered Leo on April 17th. So now I'm putting it into this list. And then I have to shift up the list. And now my drawings don't line up. Oh, it's hard. It's hard making a PowerPoint. But anyway, we do experience a shift with Mars because he gets into Leo, which isn't as important as he gets out of Cancer finally, where, you know, it's called fall because he just can't operate the way that he would prefer to. All of these fall detriment planet placements can really speak to activism and like standing up for the underdog. And then Jupiter, as well as in the post retrograde, we're going to have a little bit of shift as we get into new ground April 30th, but then we have a really good shift when we get into Jupiter's sign of exaltation in Cancer. Um, and then I just wrote in here like any other shifts that are happening, anything big I should be aware of that's happening before June. Mars does have to have his final Pluto opposition. I don't have that date written anywhere, but that's happening at 3-ish degrees. And then he's free at 6 degrees. So there is. Oh, you're seeing how the sausage is made. Oh my god. All right, so there is the March 1st transit check in, okay? Take care. You don't have to do it perfectly. It's going to be an incredibly informative time. And if you're sick of learning and you don't want to be informed, sleep, nap, all of this happening with at least one foot in Pisces, to me means that there is a lot of work that's going to be happening in the dream space, in the rest space. And so if you are just finding yourself like frickin' sleeping through this and letting a lot of processing and a lot of activations and a lot of guidance and help coming from like your spirit team, your guides, or like your planets, or like whatever you lean into that. Like, there's no shame in understanding how much work, how much healing, how much health comes from rest, whether you're fully asleep or it's like active rest or gentle rest or whatever. Okay, don't be scared to disassociate. North Node, Pluto, Pisces, all very active in this time. um, I would say try not to police yourself. Hold on, stay flexible. We're gonna get through this together, team. And we will check back in June. Okay, take care.